I'm Andy Erwin, and this is the Storytellers. Coming up on this edition of the Storytellers, this guest today, really excited about this guy. He is an up-and-coming young actor that is just a powerhouse, both on screen, behind the scenes. I've gotten to spend a lot of time with this guy this past year, and absolutely the real deal. Like everything about him is just charming as all get out, but absolutely grounded, has such a deep faith, is really talented, and obviously the camera loves him. I think God's got his hand on him for special things in the future beyond anything he's already done. So you know him, you got to know him in one of my favorite films when he was a kid. He was in the movie Super 8. He was the star of that film, directed by JJ Abrams, and then has gone on to do the Kissing Booth franchise, which has a huge fan base. And then you know him from our body of work, from Jesus Revolution. He played Greg Laurie. Without further ado, would you welcome my guest, Joel Courtney. All right, so today on the show, I love this guy. You get to meet my friend, Joel Courtney. Joel, welcome to the Storytellers, bro.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to have you in person. We're actively recruiting you guys to Nashville. This is where all the cool people are now.
And it's working.
It's working.
We're coming.
It's like more and more each day. It's just like, do you know who just moved here? It's like we're all like, it's like little Hollywood South. But yeah, it's been cool, man. Dude, I got a chance, obviously you did, Jesus Revolution with us. And that was awesome. But my brother got to direct you in that. And so I'm a little jealous. But Brent McCorkle and my brother John directed the film, and I wasn't on set for while it was getting made. So I didn't get a chance to interact with you much. But then after that, we became fast friends this past year. And so we have this trip that we take all the time to Wyoming, to this place called the Refuge. And I decided to invite a bunch of industry people, a bunch of people in film to go with us this year. And you went along. We had a blast. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the Refuge trip for you. That was a fun week.
It was life-changing, which we've talked about before. Just touched on it a little bit. I truly have never experienced such peace in the recommendation to just let all technology go.
Yeah, it's crazy.
For 5 days?
Yeah.
Something like 5 days.
The first 2 days, you're jonesing. I don't have my cell phone. I don't have my computer.
It was very humbling and shocking how many times I would just reach for my phone and just unconsciously. Yeah. And I was really actually put off by it. Yeah. And I've been doing this thing where I'm trying to put my phone down more regularly just throughout my daily life.
That's cool.
Because of that trip, it made me so aware of how often I reach for my phone. But the technology detox was really like a kickstart to a fresh life for me.
That's cool.
The best part is the brotherhood.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. The honest need for fellowship and community and just strong men in your lives.
Yep.
I was blown away by the willingness to confess past sins and the handing down of wisdom from older men to the younger men in the group. But then also, some of these younger guys pulling these wisdom of nuggets of wisdom out.
Yeah.
And just the whole room being like, oh yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
And I just, the group of men were truly shocking to me.
It was a great blend. It was funny because it was so the previous year I got taken along kicking and screaming. So basically this organization is called the Refuge, an amazing organization. Yeah. But they just geared towards men on the front lines that are believers, whether they're in entertainment or whether they're musicians or pastors or CEOs or whatever, to just be able to get away, unplug, and just connect. And so they have one in Wyoming and one in Montana. And so I went the year before kicking and screaming. They were like, hey, you got to go. I was like, I don't have time. And they're like, you got to go. So I got invited like 4 or 5 times. And finally I said yes to my buddy, Matt Hammett, who's a musician, and invited me to go. And I went, and it was, for me, it was life-changing. It was like, I came home, and my wife, Mandy, she's like, you've got to go to that every year because I want this guy. And I want this guy to be coming home to me. I think as we got to know each other, I was like, man, I love your heart. And I love, there's something about you that, for one thing, it makes me feel really old that you were born the year I graduated high school. So I looked at this, when I was looking at your bio, I was like, oh, son of a gun, dude. So anyway, I still haven't recovered from that this morning because I
told me that.
I look at you all the time. I'm like, yeah, we're basically the same, whatever. And then I'm like, I'm old enough to be his dad. But like your career and that, the fact that you got such a, started at early age, you've maintained this like innocence to you that I really, really love. So you kind of stumbled into this whole thing. Your brother was the one that wanted to be the actor, right?
Absolutely.
So
Caleb was doing the acting thing. He was coming down to Los Angeles and doing summers. He was staying there with my dad, and then they would just do a bunch of auditions. And then when the school year came back, Caleb would come back up to Idaho. And then the next summer, they did that for a couple summers. And then my next older brother, Josh, he started going down as well. And so I had a really weird summer that year because it was just me, my mom, and my sister. I was like, I need guy time. So I was 12 that summer. And then the next summer, my dad invited me down for like 2 weeks to hang out with the guys. And it was the coolest.
Yeah.
It was one studio apartment. There was 4 of us in there. I don't even know if it was legal.
That's awesome, man.
But we were just kicking it. We were watching movies and TV and just kind of like discussing them, breaking them down, trying to talk about themes. But at the age of 13, I had no idea what was going on.
Right.
And so that summer, we went to one of my older brother Caleb's auditions. And then so he comes out, and there's a room full of, kids. And she looks down at me. She says, "Are you next?" And I look at my dad. I was like, "Can I? Like, can I try?"
Are you serious?
And he said no, because I didn't have any paperwork.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything.
Huh.
And so he's like, "No, but if you want to do it next summer, I'll get your paperwork done. You can come down with us, spend the whole summer, and you can try to get like an audition for a commercial or something."
Yeah.
And so I said yes. So he got me 6 acting classes in Seattle with my brothers, just to kind of have an understanding of what I'm going to see a little bit in LA.
Sure.
And my first audition was Super 8.
That's insane.
No agent,
Very
no
first
manager, first audition. It was a nationwide, basically, search.
Yeah.
It was a manhunt for just the right kid.
Yeah.
And so my acting coach up in Seattle was actually the one who told my dad about it.
Huh.
She's like, there's this audition. They'll take anyone. So Joel's perfect. Just have him go, have him get like one audition in, build a little bit of confidence. Just it's an easy in, because they'll take literally anyone.
That's incredible.
And
this is for the lead of the movie,
and I didn't know any of that because it was untitled.
Yeah, because it was very
fake name,
very secretive.
JJ wasn't
Abrams,
attached.
JJ
Spielberg wasn't attached.
Really?
By publicly, no.
Okay.
Under all layers of false information, it was just top secret.
So when you finally get, I mean, it's probably a couple callbacks in. So in film, like you have your initial audition, then sometimes you get brought in for like the casting director and spend some time. They do another read, and then if you kind of get through the layers, they have the producer callbacks. Yeah. And then you step into the room, and and it's the people that are. So when you stepped in the room, was it JJ and Steven at any point? Like,
I met JJ day 1
of filming,
of auditions. So here's what happened.
Oh my gosh!
Right. So
and were you film savvy enough to know who JJ Abrams was at the time?
I knew him by his work.
Okay.
I did not know him by his face, and I couldn't have told you his name.
Huh.
Very specifically, that actually comes up later because my dad did. So we were watching Alias. We were watching Lost. We just loved all of JJ's work. He's a genius.
I watch Lost
Truly.
once a year, all the way through.
Yeah. I'm not once a year, but it's every couple of years. I'll just start it all over again.
It's awesome.
Just power through it. It's so good. So So day one, go in for the audition.
Mhm.
They'll take anyone, so I was an easy in. I was the only kid there. And so what happened was I go in, I did the audition, and this was with the assistant.
Yeah.
And then he said, give me a second. Goes out, gets the head casting ladies, Alyssa Weisberg and April Webster.
Uh-huh.
2 women who launched my career in just as much as JJ.
Yeah.
Because
They fought for
they fought for me so many times.
Yeah.
I think JJ saw something in me, but I think they were the ones that said, let's keep bringing him back and we'll get him to where you need him to be.
Right.
And so they come in and they do an audition with me.
Yep.
Same scene. And they said, okay, that's interesting. So they put me in a different room and they gave me new sides.
Yep.
And I have 6 acting classes under my belt. So I have no idea what to do with these new pages. I don't know how to cold read. I don't know how to go down for the line, come up and say it. I don't know the etiquette of auditioning.
Yep.
It's my first audition. So so they gave me like 20 minutes. My dad's just running it with me.
Yeah.
Just get a little comfortable with the words.
Yep. Right.
And so they come back, we go in, we do the
By the way,
second
I'm sweating for you right now. I'm just started I was like, I think I'm sweating. I'm like really nervous. That's amazing.
This is a process like I've heard no one else tell their craziest story.
Yeah.
So not to claim ownership of the most insane story ever, but I might.
It's pretty close.
So I go in and I do the second scene with them for the first time. And they're like, okay, this is really interesting. So they put me back in the room again. And they said, keep going over it with your dad. We're going to go get somebody and bring him in. Stay here. Just work on it. And I go back to the room and I'm like, Dad, this is weird. I mean, is this normal? He's like, I've never heard of this. I've never heard of this. This is different than all the like interactions Caleb ever had. And now I understand why, because this is its own thing.
Yeah.
So JJ Abrams comes walking down the hallway.
Oh my gosh.
And my dad's jaw hits the floor.
That's hilarious.
Because he had no idea, but he recognized him by face. He goes, look at that man. Like, turn around, look at that man. He's like walking out the window behind us. And he says, do you know who that is? And I said, no. Should I? That's JJ Abrams. I'm like, JJ Abrams who?
That's amazing.
He goes, Alias. Lost. I'm like, the guy. He's like, the guy, right? And so my jaw hits the floor.
That's amazing.
And he sits in there and talks to the casting team for about 5-10 minutes. They come and get me. This whole time I'm running the scene with my dad.
Yeah.
And I go in and I do the scene for JJ, April, and Alyssa. And it goes a lot better than the first time I did it with the casting directors only.
Yeah.
And so JJ was really intrigued. So he met my dad, introduced himself, and said, we like your son. We think he's really good for this, but he's just so green. We're going to need him to come back and do these scenes again. But there's a really cool acting coach that you should go see.
Yeah.
And Gary Spatz was his name. And this guy was a legend in like kids acting coaching.
Yeah.
And personal friends with my now manager who became my agent. This is a long story, but got tied in. Really cool guy.
Yeah.
And I did one-on-one classes with him all summer. And I just had a really, really great time with it. So they had me come back in like a week later with those scenes after running it with the coach multiple times. And it goes just better. Every time it just got better. And then they had me come in with new scenes and they were like just coaching me through how to act. But I have no process. I'm just saying words and it was coming off as just me saying words because I didn't know really how to act. And it turns out that that's what JJ liked. He didn't want some actors coming in and like doing the acting thing.
Yeah, the thing that you had, number one, you were older, but you had the baby face.
Oh yeah.
So like you know, I was convinced in Super 8 that you were like 11 or 12, but you were like 14, right?
I was 14, yeah.
Yeah, so you just had the baby face, which works in your favor. Like,
Yeah.
and then the second thing is, there was just something so not Hollywood about it. It was very like I haven't, the only thing I can equate your Joe Lamb to is what inspired it was Mikey from the Goonies. And you have that same quality that Sean Astin had in the Goonies, is just the wide-eyed, kind of emotionally grounded boy that kind of anchored the film. Like there was something, I think that's what he was going for. I think there was a lot of Sean Astin in your performance.
Oh, thank you.
So so JJ kind of saw that in you. Like, when did you find out you got the role?
So throughout the entire process of the summer, I did 12 or 13 callbacks.
Wow, that's a lot. Like usually, like that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Now, I will say by the end of the summer, I want to say the last 5 or 6 were
screen tests and like chemistry reads.
Reads. Yeah. Where they would bring in.
Was that you and Elle or?
I didn't meet Elle until the very end.
Okay, so Elle Fanning. And
she came in pretty late, but like guns blazing and just absolutely crushed.
Yeah.
It was actually so cool watching her. There's a scene where I'm watching the projection of my mom. She like sneaks into my bedroom and we're having like this really like beautiful, like honest
great scene.
Conversation. And she is like watching the projection of my mother.
Yeah, and you're kind of stacked
this whole
her.
thing of like she's telling me the situation of like her dad got drunk. My mom went in for the shift. That's when she passed away. And she's just
crying. Well, she's a Fanning. I think it's something in the water.
So
like it's whether it's her or Dakota. I remember when I saw her sister Dakota in Man on Fire, and I watched her, and I'm watching her with Denzel Washington, and I'm like, this little 8-year-old girl just went toe to toe with Denzel Washington, and I think she won. Like, like that's incredible. I don't know what's in the water or what they're feeding those kids.
I don't know,
but she's a Fanning, so
they're just incredibly talented.
Yeah.
And so I remember watching her do the scene, her coverage and my coverage. And I was just like blown away.
Which there was something that you did, like, and I don't know if JJ was the one that kind of coached you this direction, but there was just something that you did, that there was this wide-eyed quality you brought the character to where you're just absorbing, like, holy cow, I can't believe I'm in the room with this girl, and you're just letting her do all the twirls and the pretty stuff, but you're just like so present and so wide-eyed that it played. It was incredible.
Thanks, man. I think that honestly is just how I was experiencing my whole life during those 4 months. Just wide-eyed unbelief of what's currently happening. Because my life was so different.
Yep.
So over the summer I did about 12 or 13 callbacks, and then so JJ didn't tell me I got the role expressly until 2 weeks into my 8th grade year. And when he told me I got the role, I was like, "You're too late."
Did he call you?
No, they flew me down to LA as if it was like another callback.
So you didn't know you could do school on set. You're just like,
I had no idea you could do school on set. I can't go. I can't work. I'm like, you had 3 months to film the movie, but I got to go back to school now.
That's funny.
And they were telling me, like, no, you can do school. And set. On set. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. And then 20 minutes later, he offers me the role in a conversation.
Yeah.
I was like, well, yeah, because I can actually do that in school. But when I was flying down, I was thinking, there's no way.
There's no way.
Like,
I have
school.
That's funny. This is summer job only. Sorry, JJ.
Yeah.
You're going to have to wait.
Yeah.
Can we schedule this for next
8th
summer?
grade is so important to me.
It's a big deal. I'm a big deal in my 8th grade class.
Kind of a big deal. So yeah, that was my process for breaking into the industry.
That's incredible.
And I'll never forget it.
So with that group of kids, like, there was something, and I know the movie is kind of an homage to all things Spielberg. It's basically, I know Spielberg was executive producer for it, but it's basically JJ's love letter to his hero, Steven Spielberg. So it's all things Spielberg. Yeah. And you see remnants of E.T. and Goonies and all that stuff in it. But they kind of, it just seemed like a really fun group of kids that they just let you be kids. Even like It same way as Dick Donner did in Goonies. Like JJ just lets you guys talk all over each other and just interrupt. It's messy. It's kids. It's like, what was that experience like with that group of kids? Did you guys have like a bonded experience offset? Like, what was that group of kids like?
We had an incredible time. Super cool guys. I met all of them through, the audition process of the chemistry reads. I think Riley and Ryan came in pretty early on, and they kept coming back. So I was like, oh, I remember these guys. They keep coming back. We didn't meet right till the very end. Zach came in towards the end, and then poor Gabe Basso. What a guy.
Now, which one was Gabe?
Gabe Basso plays Martin, the guy who's constantly throwing up. No.
That's Martin. Okay, the one that's like always like
with
emotional.
The big glasses. Yes, very emotional.
He's hysterical.
Yeah.
I love him.
So funny. Super cool guy.
I love him.
He was the last guy to get cast, and what we did was we did this diner scene when we see the train crash and the military is down there.
Yeah.
And we cut to the diner and we're just talking
and
about
Martin's freaking out.
The fries, and he's freaking out. That was the scene that they used for his audition.
Oh, wow.
And we had developed some sort of like tick in the scene where it was a trigger for us to all just start laughing.
Yeah.
And at the age of 14, it honestly was just a giggle.
Yeah.
So, and it was all of us. It was Elle, me, Riley, Ryan, Zach, like all of us. And so Gabe was one of 3 guys who came in chemistry read with the whole group. We were already offered the role, accepted, and in. And so we were kind of just goofing off and just having too much fun with it. And we ruined Gabe's audition. We ruined it. But he was able to like keep up and tag in and play along. And I mean, he's great. So he fit in perfectly. And he got the offer, and then our group was set, and we would hang out a lot at the hotel. So Elle wasn't at the hotel because basically they only put people up at hotel if they're not locals. So Gabe was local, Elle was local.
Right.
Everyone else was not.
Yeah.
I think. And so me, Ryan, Riley, Zach, we would hang out at the hotel all the time.
Yeah.
And we just became like best friends.
That's cool.
Over the most insane experience in our lives of being on set, off set, filming this incredible movie, and just experiences that we'll never get to have again. And the first time we were experiencing them, because the 3 of us, Riley had done, I think, 1 or 2 things smaller. Ryan had done a couple things, but like all of us, this was our biggest. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
And this was my first.
Right.
And so I had a lot of firsts on that set.
That's cool.
And that group, it was cool to talk over each other. It was cool to be messy. There would be times when JJ would come in and be like, it's too clean. Mess it up.
That's great.
Mess it up.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, because he captured what it was to be just to be a kid.
Yeah.
And like, instead of it being very kind of structured, it just was gorgeously messy. Yeah. With JJ, what was his directing style, and maybe as a young actor, what was one of the pieces of advice on that film that you took away from him?
JJ is a big proponent for listening and being present.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where so I look back on my time with JJ and having no experience with any other directors at that time. Sure. I didn't really know what he was doing. I can kind of work with directors now, and if they're putting something down, I can kind of pick up on it and run with it. But at the time, he was like, do this. I was like, I'm going to do exactly that, you know? And so he was probably telling me things like, I'm going to pull this string and see what happens over there.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what he was getting at.
Yeah.
But he was always patient and he was always clear. And if we ever had any questions, he was always willing to talk to us. And I majorly appreciated that because I didn't know what I was doing. And so I never felt like I was asking a dumb question because the first day on set, I was like, what is that? And I'm like, that's a dolly for the camera
we
to
had,
just slide on.
We had on our sets, like, it's always the new guy that gets picked on the most. There was one guy on our set that he's since gone on to be an incredible camera guy, but his first day on set, like they had been teasing him like he needed to go find a bag of edit points or different things like that don't exist. Like just like so finally he had been putting up with it the whole time, and he's like, I'm not gonna. So they're like, hey, we need you to go find a full apple. And an apple box is like, it's an actual thing on a truck. Like it's a box that you either sit on, stand on, or is used, for different things, for things to stack on top of. And this kid disappeared for an hour and a half. And we were like, and he comes back out of breath and had run all the way to the grocery store down the road and brought back a full apple. It was a big shiny red apple. And he's like, here, got it for you. They're just like, oh, poor kid. So with you, like, having this amazing experience up front, not having any context, I've always wondered, for somebody that books something so big as the first thing, what's the challenges that come afterwards, after having done that thing and being like, oh, how do I get back to what that was? Like, was there a challenge that came, like a letdown after it was over? Or what was the aftermath of Super 8 for you after all the noise died off?
So there was absolutely a realization awakening period after Super 8 on my next two jobs. And they were just not the same.
Yeah.
I think they realized that I had the natural non-Hollywood thing going, but I didn't actually know process. I didn't know.
Yeah. JJ was doing a lot of
exactly what I was doing. JJ was pulling a lot of the performance strings.
Yeah.
And so I stayed in acting class. I needed to learn to get better.
Right.
And I really had a hard time on my next two jobs because I felt like I was there because of Super 8, but I didn't deserve to be there.
Yeah.
I almost felt like Super 8 was like a one-off gig and I could just disappear and like never work again. It was just that one, but I really fell in love with it on Super 8. And so I wanted to stick with it. I wanted to fight for it.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep getting better. And I'm so glad that I did. I mean, I'm having the best time.
Well, I mean, you definitely made that effective transition from like, and even actors that are really, really good kid actors, there's that transition to being an adult that some of them just don't make that jump. And to sticking with it as a profession, there's some that do and then some that don't. Yeah. Just because it doesn't transition from being a kid to an adult. And to see you do that's been cool. I think the other thing is you stepped into kind of a new rabid fan base with Kissing Booth. And so you do 3 of
100%.
these, and all of a sudden it's like this big thing on Netflix. And with that comes like just a crazy rabid fan base, for you and Joey and Jacob, everybody that was a part of that show have had, those movies it's been a rabid fan base. What kind of pressure did that dump on top of you of all of a sudden being like, everybody wanting, access to you or that type of thing? Was there a challenge that came with that?
I mean, yes, challenges for sure. There's been some like public, like when I'm out in public, I get recognized almost every day. It's definitely slowed down, but when we were at the peak of the Kissing Booth coming out, and then especially for 2 and 3, because there was so much excitement about it coming, the story coming back to main like reruns. I couldn't really go out without being recognized. And so I definitely found like I stayed in a lot, kind of like held up and
I've heard that
did
from
my
a lot
own
of people.
thing.
I've had a lot of friends that have been on shows like that it makes them a little paranoid.
I definitely got a little paranoid. I met a lot of people and I really I really did a disservice to myself in allowing this to catch on. I started asking, like, why do you want to be my friend?
Mm.
And I think that paranoia really kicked in. But I'm happy that I acknowledged what that was, and I kicked it early.
Good. What was that made you be able to kick it? Like, what was the secret
Just
to that?
A realization that I'm not that cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that cool. So
That's cool.
if you're trying to use me, you're not going to get anything out of me. So it's just a non-issue.
Huh.
And so, because I'm not a producer yet, I'm not a director. I can't cast anyone in anything.
Yeah.
And if I'm talking to a director or a producer, then like I'd like to think that I can go toe to toe in a conversation about storylines, theme, character, and all things like entertainment now. But at the time I was like, I can't do anything for anyone. So it was really honestly just a step back, humble myself, and get back to,
Well, that grounded quality that you have, like, because I've been intrigued with it, because you've maintained this kind of that same groundedness throughout. You've never had a reputation for being like the wild actor and that kind of stuff. Like, being part of an industry that really seduces people quickly. What was it that kept you grounded? And talk a little bit about your faith and how you've maintained the challenges of being a Christian in this industry, and what's kept you believing what you believe.
Yeah. So, I mean, my faith is absolutely what kept me grounded. My dad was just steadfast in his position in my life as a just bringer of wisdom.
Yeah.
He lived with me in Los Angeles and Idaho. So like we would, travel back and forth. But anytime I went down to Los Angeles from the age of 13 to 20, he was with me.
That's cool.
And he knew that, I mean, there's a lot of people out there trying to get a leg up on people, take advantage of people.
Yep.
Just industry weirdness.
Yeah.
He took better care of me than I could have been aware of at the time, and I don't think I will continue to be aware of until I have my own kids.
Wow. That's cool.
He really lived out a father's love to me, and possibly in detriment to my siblings, his other kids, because he spent so much time with me taking care of me that like there was many, many times where he was not home with my other siblings and with my mom.
Right.
So like I'll never truly be able to thank my dad and give back to him.
Wow.
For what he gave to me.
That's cool.
And then to the aspect of my faith, I really started and accepted like Jesus personally in my faith when I was on Super 8, because it was my first time leaving Moscow and
in
Idaho and leaving
not
a small
Moscow
Christian.
Russia.
Yeah, not Moscow, Russia. My accent is gone now. No. In Idaho, and it was my first time leaving a small town community, tight Christian community, and seeing like atheists. Mm-hmm. Not that there aren't atheists in Moscow, Idaho, but like really interacting with non-Christians, because my whole community up in Idaho was Christian. So I was like, wow, these people need Jesus.
Huh.
Oh, I need Jesus.
Wow.
Like more personally than just my parents are Christians, so I'm a Christian.
Sure.
And so that was really where the journey started for my personal faith, and it's been, roller coaster. I am no saint.
Yeah. Me either. I mean, we're all broken.
For sure. So I really, along with the career came my like relationship with Christ. And so it was one of those things where my dad was pouring wisdom into me over my life and praying over me, and reading the Bible, trying to make good decisions, which jobs to take, which jobs not to take.
Is that a challenge as a Christian? Has that been a challenge to figure out, like, especially in this day and age?
Absolutely, yeah. There's scripts that I read and I'm like, I'm not comfortable doing that, like sexual acts or nudity or stuff like that. I'm just like, that's not me. That's someone else out there will take this job.
Yeah.
That's just not for me.
Yeah.
Even more so now that I'm married and my desire is to love my wife and to honor and respect her.
Yep.
There's just some things I can't do.
Yeah.
I could have possibly done more when I was a singular bachelor.
Yeah.
Without crossing the line of sin. But now with my wife, I'm just like, I'm so protective of that line.
Good for you.
Like, if the line's here, I'm not doing anything further than this to protect my wife's heart.
Good for you.
And our marriage.
Good for you.
And your
wife,
can be
Mia,
difficult.
is one of the most lovely human beings on the planet.
Isn't she?
Like you lucked out, bro.
I'm so
you
lucky.
lucked out.
I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
She's my better half. She's everything.
That's worth fighting for and protecting. She's special.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's jobs. It's hard to say no because they put $ signs out there and you're like,
yeah.
But it's the Lord provides. If He clothes the lily in the field, how much more will He provide for one of us? Right. So like, I have seen that so many times.
Yep.
I went for 2 years without booking a movie once, and I was just constantly auditioning. Callbacks, director session, producer sessions. I went down to the line on so many things. And it just never went my way. And then Kissing Booth was my first movie back from a 2-year break of not working.
Huh.
And it was very much like, I'm going to go to college if I don't book something in the next 3 months because I'm out of money.
Yep. Well, it's amazing like how fine a line that is sometimes between success and failure and how close it comes to that place of giving up. I mean, I can only imagine for us, like we were at the point where I was teasing with my wife. I was like, I'm going to have to apply at Starbucks. If I'm going to have to stop buying coffee, I'm going to have to start serving it just because this job may not work out. And then we're like, we're going to go try one last time. And for us, I can only imagine it was one last time. Yeah. It was like, let's just go out with a bang.
Yeah.
And, it's happened. So.
I think the relationship between like, being forced to the point of failure and then also looking at it as surrender to God's will.
Yep.
And His timing.
Yep.
This is the best that we have. Lord, run with it.
Yeah.
And that's all you got.
Well, and there's this appreciation for it when you kind of release your identity and release the fact of, okay, my best days might be behind me and it may be time for something new. And when you let go of it, when God gives you a second or a third round in this job, there's a deep appreciation of being like, that's rare. So the fact that you get a kissing booth. And then I think for you coming back around to, finding that job where you can dramatically check the box, but also represent what you believe. What was Jesus Revolution like for you when you decided to do Greg Laurie? Because I know it came to you initially, John Gunn, who wrote the script with my brother, John Gunn was attached to direct it, and then we did a massive fire drill where everybody switched seats, and Gunn jumped over to Ordinary Angels. It's coming out soon,
so exciting,
and which is fantastic. We're watching the screening tonight.
Yep.
But then my brother and Brent McCorkle stepped in to Jesus Rev, but it was John Gunn that discovered you.
Yes, it absolutely was. So my first audition with Jesus Revolution was in late January of 2020. And I distinctly remember that because my birthday's in the end of January. So we did the audition. Kevin was there.
Kevin Downs, my producing partner.
Yeah, Kevin Downs was there, and then John Gunn was there, and then I was reading with the casting assistant or casting director.
Yep.
And I remember going in, auditioning, and I felt really good about it. There was just a piece about it.
Yeah.
I really like that. Obviously, there's situations where you're like on set, it'll be better. Like the environment will be there and the other actors will be there.
Yep.
And wardrobe and hair and makeup does a lot for me when I build out a character. But for the audition, I was so happy with it. So I start getting up to leave. Kevin's like, wait. I want to talk to you.
Which is Kevin's way. It can come off a little manic. He's like, no, wait. We talk. And
Yeah.
you're like, are Are you okay?
No, but it was great. We were talking about faith. We were talking about my faith. And just like life and like how it was going. And I think they connected with me obviously enough to offer me the role.
Right.
And I'll never forget or be able to appreciate it enough. Being able to take my art and my median for putting myself out there, the gift that God has given me.
Yep.
Because from my story earlier, God opened up that door and pushed me through it.
Yeah.
And allowed me to walk. So my art that God has given me, and share my faith. Yep. It was just a true dream come true. Nothing short of or other than that. It was a dream come true. And I look forward to doing more films like that. I actually just got to do a film called On Fire.
Yeah, that's the one that Sean McNamara directed.
Yeah, right. Sean McNamara. And it's about John O'Leary and his family. And I'm so proud of the film. I haven't seen anything, but it was one of those times where I left set with that gut feeling of this is going to be special. And I had the same feeling on Jesus Revolution.
Isn't Devon Franklin in that film?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Super cool. And I had no idea, and he didn't know either until the announcement went out and both of our faces were on the deadline post.
That's incredible.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, I took a screenshot and I sent it to him the second I saw it.
The scene with you guys in Jesus Revolution outside the tent revival, when he talks about, kind of bringing you back to, what it's really all about. And him being the benevolent skeptic that's been kind of won over through this whole thing. That scene between the two of you guys was special. It's one of my favorites.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's cool. I think the thing that's exciting for us, when Gunn had decided that you were Greg Laurie, and we felt like the whole movie had to be about getting Greg and Kathy right. And when Gunn found you, because we had gone through a lot of different names, and every single one were just like, no. And then when he found you, he called me. He's like, dude, this movie's gonna work. He's like, this kid Joel he's Greg. Like, I can build the whole movie off of him. And so to see, I think for, young actors, in this space, when we started in faith film, like it was just so, so much of it was kind of considered cheesy and that kind of thing. So it was really hard to connect with young actors. A lot of times older actors, yes, but young actors, because there was this stain to it that they didn't want to be a part of it. They thought it made them uncool. But in the past 5 years in this faith space, to connect with actors like you or Britt Robertson or KJ Appa, Anna Grace that plays Kathy, like there's just a level of young talent coming in that it's like it's not a problem for me to play a faith movie. Like talk to me about the mindset and like how you feel like you've seen that morph over getting involved in it when you did.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, I'm also a culprit of when I was younger, much younger, of reading scripts and just being like hesitant. Like everything I've seen has been so cheesy.
Yeah.
But there was always good ones, just kind of like getting out there. And I've read multiple scripts for faith-based films. I was just like, this doesn't feel like the quality that it could be. It doesn't feel like it's at the level that like I want it to be at. And so I was kind of held back from doing them. Just in a desire to not be a part of the cheesy films because I knew they could be so much better.
Yeah.
And so when I read Jesus Revolution, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yep.
And I was super excited because I'd seen I Can Only Imagine.
Yep.
I was like, that's these guys.
Yeah.
This is going to be it. And so it felt like that sip of cold water, that breath of fresh air that I was looking for.
Well, I think the necessary element that's finally present in the scripts, what made faith cheesy for a long time, I don't think was the faith. What made it cheesy is Christians are really averse to conflict, to tension. We want to go straight to the answer. It's like, oh, it used to be like this, but really it's about this now. And it's like, my life's perfect.
Yeah.
And that's not real.
No.
And I think it's embracing the tension and the conflict that I think earns the message. And so a movie like Jesus Revolution, and where a lot of these kids came from, and the pain, the drugs, the burnout, and then the tension in the church of, even like with Lonnie Frisbee's character, of him having this moment of power and influence, but then kind of getting drunk on that power and then it causing a rift. Like there's necessary tension, or the tension between, Greg and Kathy, and Greg just really thinking he's going to be left again, like he was by his father, and his mom letting him down, and like that almost sabotaged his relationships. It's that necessary tension that I think makes something not cheesy.
Yeah.
Because that's real. For you guys with Jesus Rev, just talk to me a little bit about the experience. What was the most powerful moment with you in the making of that film? Was there a scene that stuck out that was like particularly impactful to you?
Absolutely. So the day that we were doing the baptisms in Pirates Cove in Southern California, down the Newport area, it's actually the beach that Greg and Kathy were baptized at back in the day.
It's crazy.
And we had one of the actors on set get baptized that day by Greg Laurie.
Yeah.
And I remember your brother John, me, Devon, and Keith was over there. The whole crew, like we're just filming the scene of Devon and I talking, and one of the ADs runs up. Hey guys, check this out! Like, Greg's baptizing Sean.
Yeah, Sean Wise from Mighty Ducks.
Yeah,
he's talked about his story publicly a little bit, and like
amazing.
His battle with drugs, and then he was on and he comes up to Greg right before the scene. Is like, I want to make this decision for real, and then Greg's
just over there baptizing Sean, and we're like, that is amazing. That's so amazing to see. And then we go back and film our scene. But later that night, Jonathan and I filmed Greg's baptism back in the era. So Jonathan Rumi and I filmed the scene,
a special scene,
and we were chasing the sunlight.
Yep.
And it was beating us.
It's like it's going lower and lower.
There is no way. When it gets right to the horizon and it just speeds up?
Yeah, exactly.
That's where we were. And so we filmed, I think it was like 3 cameras. One was on someone's shoulder, one was on someone else's shoulder over, and then we had one floating on the ocean, kind of like rocking with, which was genius.
It's gorgeous.
Such a cool shot. But that scene, Jonathan and I kind of rehearsed it earlier on the beach, and we were just praying together. There's a cool shot of us with our hands on each other's shoulders. We're just having this really
it's great. That's fantastic.
Private, beautiful moment before going and filming the scene. And we went out there. The water was so cold. Jonathan had been out there for hours.
Yeah.
And it was just this really precious and beautiful moment. I think we only did like 1 take.
It's incredible.
Because
once you're wet, you're wet.
We're wet. Once you're wet, you're wet. There's no time to reset because the sun's already, halfway down. And it was just this, it was no cut, go again. It was just like intense. It was raw. It was beautiful. It was in the moment.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Like, and another reason that day sticks out so memorably is that so many of the background actors got baptized that day as well.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Greg was just baptizing people all day.
That's incredible.
And then one of the background ladies came up to Jonathan while they're filming, and the camera's up on the cliff. It's looking down. It's a wide shot. There's one below, and there's getting over people's shoulder. There's kind of dirty shots of, just the action, right? The big day.
Dirty means somebody's in the foreground, and it's
right. Yeah, it's over a shoulder,
over somebody's shoulder. Yeah,
the scene.
Yeah.
And good clarification.
Yeah, it's not a dirty. It's not a dirty shot.
It's not a dirty shot.
That camera guy over there's dirty. No.
Good clarification.
Yeah.
So one of the ladies went out and she was like, "Before you do this, like, can we do this for real?"
Huh.
And he was like, absolutely. So he just kind of like took her through a couple questions. He prayed with her and then baptized her.
Yeah.
And he was like, that was such an incredibly profound moment. And he was telling me about it afterwards.
Man.
Like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
the thing that's interesting too, and I think it was beautiful about what we get to do with Faith, is there's a power to the true story. One of the keys to our brand, and it's not the only way to do it. I mean, because we're just one of several versions of this, but there's power to a true story. Absolutely. And when we did the movie Woodlawn, it was the first movie that we did that wasn't shredded by the critics. And since then, we've had a good track record between the critics and between the audience. And the key was embracing true stories. It didn't feel like propaganda when it's something somebody had lived. And when it's something that's historically rooted in, in accuracy to what went on, all of a sudden the faith becomes very, very palatable. And the critics don't really know how to shred that. They're just like, well, it happened. And so for a movie like Jesus Revolution, to do it, not just something that happened, but to do it back in the location where it happened. And the thing that's special about Pirates Cove is it's an alcove of this natural carving into the side of a cliff, to where it creates this kind of natural kind of, kind of protected beach that hasn't really been touched over time, because you can't really, you can't excavate it and that type of thing. So it's not like, it just kind of survives the elements. So it's kind of as is now as it was, in the 60s and 70s when the story happened. So to shoot it there, and then fast forward to when the film releases and it has this massive impact, God's doing something really, really special. Mm-hmm. And then that summer that it released, this past summer, they had a couple of mass baptisms there. Yeah. On one of those days, they had 4,200 people get baptized in one day. Crazy. Broke the record for like the most baptisms in one location in the history of the United States. Like, to see a
Hallelujah.
film, yeah, no, right? To see a film have that kind of impact for you as an artist, as an actor, as somebody that this is your profession, but to see it have an eternal impact. What did that do for you, as an artist, to watch that?
There was actually a surprising impact. Given that it was a true story, it was my first time doing a true story. I definitely felt the pressure of telling Greg's story and being honest and true to him.
Yeah.
But once I was on set, and he's so awesome. Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Greg's incredible. He was so open for me to ask him questions.
Yep.
Day or night. He's like, text me, call me, whatever you want. If you need something, let me know.
Yep.
And I took him up on that.
And he's definitely a pastor that understands artists, because he is an artist. I mean,
right.
He draws. Yeah. He loves music. He's very artistically tuned as a pastor.
Yeah, he's very artistically aware, and he was very collaborative.
Yeah.
With me, with everybody, it seemed. So, there was a piece about this film where on set, I didn't really have a goal of like, this film's going to save people's lives.
Yeah.
I just knew it would.
Yeah.
If we're going to do if we do it well,
yep,
this film will change people's lives.
Yep.
And what's cool is, didn't even have to rap before that was happening, because people were getting baptized in
the middle of the scene.
In the middle of the scene. And while we're filming, people are getting baptized. Like, the whole idea of like, if this movie changes one person's life, if
the whole movie happened and it just happened for Sean,
right,
it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
That's a soul rejoicing in eternity.
Right.
It's worth it. And it wasn't just Sean.
Yeah.
It was background actors. It was Sean. It was people around the world with huge love and support and appreciation for this film, because it did change their lives. It was an honor of a lifetime. I get lost in the grandiose of it. I just, that's God's job.
That's cool.
I can't fathom the generational blessing that Jesus Revolution has been. I've seen it in the first generation's life. The people who saw it here, their kids, will be affected by it, Lord willing, and their children's children.
Well, I think that's one of the blessings of what we get to do.
Yeah.
Is you're creating, I think the historians and philosophers of our generation are filmmakers. And so kind of the historical record for events, even though they're interpreted, they're portraits, not photographs. But the historical records for these things get to be things that we do that live on well past us. Like I watch, I watch It's a Wonderful Life like once a year for Christmas.
Yep.
Frank Capra has been dead for decades, but his work still speaks. And so that's really kind of a privilege of what we get to create as a group. One of those things that's happening right now that I've been a big fan of is The Chosen. We were at the premiere the other night for season 4 in LA, and I didn't even know you were going to be there. I just turned around, I was like, Joel? I was like, what's up? But, one of those people that has been Jonathan Rumi, who was in Jesus Revolution. Talk to me a little bit about Jonathan, the impact that he made you during the film, any kind of special moments that you had with him during the making of the movie or impact that he made on you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chosen, awesome.
Yeah.
I was watching
season 4, those first 2 episodes.
Whoa.
Caught me off guard. Like it just he sucker punches me every time.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there jaded, like, Dallas, you're not going to get me this time. And all of a sudden it comes this moment of like, I'm crying.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
Dallas always just crushes. So Jonathan is an actor's actor.
Yeah,
I mean,
very much.
Holy cow, he's a powerhouse. There was a scene where I'm sitting on Jesus Revolution. I'm sitting in the living room and I'm watching footage of my adoptive dad, who I thought was my dad, but my mom's told me it wasn't my real dad.
And Lonnie and his wife are leaving.
And they're trying to sneak out, but I'm awake.
Yep.
And we have this conversation. And Jonathan, I think we did his coverage first.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having a conversation with Brent and John saying, like, I felt a lot of heat in that scene, and I just really kept it in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about letting it out a little bit? And I'm like, that's interesting. We saw that. Let's see what it looks like. And we just kind of like played with it. And what I don't think people know is that Jonathan's best performance, and not even best, but just like equally as good, was on my coverage.
Wow.
When he wasn't on camera.
He's pulling stuff out of you.
So he is done.
Yeah.
And not that he would phone it in.
Well, a lot of actors do, though.
And like, a lot of actors do.
A lot of veteran actors will kind of, when it gets to your coverage, not theirs, they'll hold back because they're like, I'm not going to be seen.
Yeah. They'll put 50%.
Yeah.
Jonathan was just right there with me. And same with Connie. They both were just so present. And that was Jonathan every day.
Wow.
He was collaborative. He was hysterical. Holy cow. Jonathan
a lot of
is so funny.
A lot of the funniest moments in the movie are improv.
Yeah.
It's just him running with him showing you the attic and where you're going to be staying and the car. The car.
Yeah.
The car. So good.
So good.
Because when I read the script, it didn't have a lot of that funny in it naturally, but like a lot of that just came from Jonathan doing his thing.
100%. And so I really respect him for his generosity, his tenacity for great work.
Yep.
And just being uncompromising in his pursuit of that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's awesome.
Yeah.
I look forward to the day that I get to work with him again.
That's great. I mean, I adore him.
Yeah.
He's
and it was so good to catch up with him again.
Yeah. He's just
awesome.
He's always so present.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's exhausting for him because so many people want a piece of him because it's hard playing an iconic character like that where everybody still sees you as like their version of Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, I'm an actor. I'm just a person. And it's like, but he's always so present and generous to give. For you giving to young actors, like a few things as we begin to wrap up. For you giving to young actors, like, you started when you were 13, 14 years old. Mm-hmm. For young actors getting in this business and kind of finding their voice and that type of thing, if you were to give them a piece of advice, that would be the kind of most valuable thing you could communicate to them about if this is a career they're going to choose. What would you tell the 13, 14-year-old version of yourself?
So my go-to piece of advice, usually for people who want to break in acting, is find a really great class that you feel comfortable in, but challenged, and learn like story, character, themes, learn script, learn everything that you can, and just kind of like soak up what it is and have like a good community that are also hungry for the same thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of career, I just want you to love it because it is entertainment.
Yeah.
Right. I think as I got older, there was this moment where I got lost in the business of it.
Yeah.
The numbers, the number of times I worked in a year or the amount of years that I didn't work. I got lost in like the business of it, and I kind of dried up, and I got really lost in the business. I lost my passion for the acting. I was just chasing it because it seemed like it was what I was supposed to do before having like my surrender moment. But I think anyone coming into the industry, because some people start in their 40s and 50s and are just genius,
like Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman didn't start until he was like 54, 55, something like that. He's a legend. So just love what you're doing. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
Have fun with it because it's entertainment.
I love finding an older actor that still has that spark. So like, I'm really close to John Voight after directing him in Woodlawn. We stayed connected. Good. And every time we're together and we're around the industry, he'll always elbow me in the ribs and be like, "Hey kid, look what we get to do for a living. We get to go play dress up for 2 hours. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
We're just gonna go play pretend." And it's like, there's a part of it, the people that still have that sparkle in their eye that I think is powerful.
Kelsey Grammer as well.
Kelsey Grammer.
Holy cow.
Dude.
Awesome.
So good. So good.
Wild.
I just like, there's very few people that can get the regalness of, really great monologues and dialogues and also get the laugh out loud humor and do it at the same time. Like he's just so gifted.
He's a joy to work with and just watch. And there was times where I was just watching him. I'm not present at all. I'm just enjoying the show.
Yeah.
Like, wait, let me check back in with you. Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, there were so many times I did that.
That's incredible. For for you, like this couple of things as we finish up, for you, if there was one actor that you have not gotten a chance to spend time with, that you could have a dinner with and sit down and get, advice from them because you're like, it's a hero type person, who would that actor be and what would you ask?
That's a fun question. I would say either Tom Hanks or Denzel Washington.
Ooh. Dude, Denzel. Dude, so I had an interaction with him one time.
Really?
One time. So when we were mixing American Underdog, he was mixing his film on the next stage over. And we were so in the same, we share like a little lounge where we all eat together and they just have like a little common area. And then he has his stage, big theater that he's mixing on. So it was a movie he did with Michael B. Jordan. He directed it. And so he's mixing and I'm mixing American Underdog. So I would see him come to work every day and we'd pass each other in the lobby. And I'm like, figure out something to say. And I was like, so he finally comes through one day and I'm like, hey Denzel, how you doing? And he walked by, he's like, hey man. And I was like, man, I'm really excited about your movie coming out. And he's like, and then he called my bluff. He turned and he's so intimidated. He just stops, looks right at me. He's like, which one? And I was like, the one that you're doing with Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, that looks great. He's like, oh, okay, man. I was like, or there's always, and he had this other movie he had just filmed. I was like, there's always Macbeth. Oh, so and he's like, Macbeth, that one. He's like, it's like best thing I've done in 20 years. That one. And I was like, so we started talking about Joel Cohen, and I was like, it's his first movie, not direct with his brother. How you like it? And we talked about it for a while, but I was just like, but I was sweating so much when he turned to me, he just leaned there, like, which one? I was like, I don't know.
So cool.
I don't know. But
that's such a cool story.
Dude.
Yeah, no, both of those men are powerhouse actors.
Yeah.
Have a whole lot of honesty, like in their performances, just genius. And men that I would just love to learn from and have conversations with. And it would be a spark of a question. Like I would want to ask them one question and then just let them go.
I love it.
Wherever their mind went,
Yeah,
and just run with it. And then honestly, just monologue. And I just listen and try to
incredible.
glean as much like wisdom out of that conversation.
And Denzel has such a strong faith in Tom as well. And Tom's Greek Orthodox. But it's something I read about Tom that I don't know if you knew. So, he did this movie Greyhound that was like it's a World War II naval ship kind of movie.
Oh yeah,
whatever.
that's right.
But he wrote it, and on it, like there was a his character had like a prayer card that he had in his mirror. It talked about relationship with Christ, and like there was like a little prayer card, and he started in the movie praying on his knees. So I did a little bit of a deep dive on Tom Hanks. Found out that he talked about in an interview that he had his first religious experience during the Jesus movement. And and he talked about it in an interview. He said, "I can't deny that whatever I experienced then as a hippie kid, that it was real and authentic, and I felt so loved." And he's like, there was something really authentic about that time period. So I don't know it's led to me saying like I would love to know more about what that was.
No.
It was before his career or anything. It was just like he was very much like Greg's character, just kind of on a journey. So anyway, it's a cool connection.
Super cool
to that. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff, man. And I had one last little question. I had heard that one of your favorite movies is Warrior.
Yes, 100%.
Dude, that movie.
So good.
It's so good, man.
It's heartbreaking. It is one of those movies where I can't hold back the tears.
Yeah.
At the end, I just
the first time
every single time.
The first time the two brothers, like those that haven't seen the movie. So it's an ultimate fighting competition.
Mm-hmm.
It's two brothers pitted against each other, and they have an alcoholic father that Nick Nolte plays, and the two brothers are Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton. I think it's the best performance by either of those guys.
I love this movie.
And it gets to the end, and these two brothers have to fight each other, and they both have their own worthy cause.
Mm-hmm.
So you get in that last fight, and you don't know who you're rooting for.
Mm-mm.
But the way they satisfied it, and I won't give away the ending, but the way they satisfy it is it checks both boxes in such an emotionally profound way.
Mm-hmm.
And when that song by The National comes on and starts playing in the background, like I was like projectile style, like crying. It looked like machine gun tears. And I was just like, what just happened here? Such a good movie.
Every time. I choke up every time I watch that film. I can't get over the scoring, the cinematography, the performances from those three men are stellar.
Yep.
And like you said, I think some of the best work. I just love that movie so much. And it's the family. Mm-hmm. It's the family at the core. It's not about the fighting. The fighting is like almost a character in the film.
Yep.
But it's the family.
Well, and for when we did Underdog, a lot of the stylistic choices in that film came from Warrior, because very much same thing. We're like, it's about what happens off the field. Football's just the background,
right?
And then at the end, when I use the song "Change of Time" to kind of to finish the movie out, it's very similar to Warrior, and down to the fact that when I was looking for an editor, I wanted somebody to co-edit it with me, and I looked at the editor, and there was a list of them I wanted to go after. And Warrior was a Lionsgate film. And so I reached out to one of the executives that was in charge at the time. And I said, there's 4 editors listed on this. Who was the main editor on Warrior that drove the story forward? He's like, Sean Albertson. So I looked up Sean and I was like, would you edit with me? And so I hired him as my editor on Underdog, and now he edits all my stuff. So like, amazing. It's a perfect movie. So when I saw that on your list, I was like, Joel's going to have a bright career because he's got good taste.
Well, thank you.
Dude. Well, man, we're big fans around here. We're hoping that Jesus Rev is the first of many stories we get to tell together.
Absolutely.
You're the real deal on every level, and your future is bright. And I can't wait to see what God does with you next. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I want to thank my guest, Joel Courtney. Just love that kid. I absolutely just special guy. And so much fun to just talk about movies and about career. I just think some of his stories about stumbling into this business and then walking into a room as a kid, and then JJ Abrams walking into the room, him not even knowing who that was, is just fantastic. It just makes me smile. I think the thing that I like about Joel is just how God gives you a voice, and then coming to that place of surrender to lay it all down, and then to find a bigger purpose that you didn't even know it was there for. To see what God's done with him through Jesus Revolution, and stepping into that role and realizing this isn't just about a paycheck, it's about an eternal perspective. And I think there's a seasoned quality that comes with an actor when they can step beyond this just being a paying gig or a role, and then step into really having an anger to find something that matters. And I think when an actor can find that inner anger and that inner passion for something that matters, there's something powerful that comes out of that. I think you saw that with Joel in Jesus Revolution, and the performance that came out of him through my brother's direction with Brent McCorkle is really exciting. And I think there's many more amazing projects coming from Joel in the future. Totally believe in that guy. And it was a privilege to have him on the show. So that's our show today. I would just encourage you guys to keep watching this thing, listening to this thing. Go on the podcast, rate it, give us a good rating, and that helps us keep more eyes on it. And then leave your comments in the threads. So in the thread, if you could just say, things that you like, the things that maybe questions that you had for me or for Joel, things that you want to know about what we're doing, and also ideas for other guests that you want to see on the show. That's super important to us. We want to service this show for you guys, the fans. It is our conversation to kind of let down the wall between what we do and who we are, and you guys as the fans, and let you in behind kind of closed doors and get to know us and our friends. To feel a part of what's going on in this whole faith film kind of movement. It's really important for you guys to feel valued and to feel a part of this. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Storytellers.
The Storytellers is a Kingdom Story Company production. It is produced by Nick Carey, with production assistance from Ben and Justin Bailey, and creative assistance from Jaron Weatherly and Beecher Proch. Our executive producers are Kevin Downs and Brandon Gregory. Social media for the show is run by the Troops and Allies team, and our music is Twisted Rooster by Tommy Prophet. Special thanks to our entire team at Kingdom Story Company. To make sure that you never miss out on any of our exciting guests, subscribe to The Storytellers for free on YouTube at Kingdom Story Company or wherever you listen to podcasts. For exclusive first looks at our upcoming films, behind-the-scenes content, and invitations to advanced screenings, join the conversation as a Kingdom Insider at KingdomStoryCompany.com and follow us at Kingdom Story Company across all platforms. As always, thanks for joining Andrew Erwin and his friends on The Storytellers.